Are you a married man who hasn't had physical intimacy with your wife in many years because she has lost interest and just doesn't want to do it anymore? This is the most common theme I find in my message inbox. Desperate husbands who want to have intimacy in their lives, who haven't been touched in so long that they've forgotten what it feels like. And touch starvation is a real problem. When you haven't been touched in an intimate or loving way in a really long time and you want it, it actually can hurt you. It begins to cause you to look at yourself as unlovable. These are just emotions that come up when we go without touch, physical connection for a really long time. But for some reason, wives are not giving the physical intimacy to their husbands that their husbands are craving. And there are many reasons for this, and I've talked about this in other podcast episodes as well. But today I'm going to teach you how to seduce your wife, how to restore physical intimacy in your marriage. Welcome back to Intimacy After Ostomy podcast. I'm your host, Trina Ricketts, the Intimate Ostomate, and I am an ostomy and post-surgery intimacy coach. But the thing that I'm talking about today, which is basically sexless marriages, is not a problem that only affects people who've been through recent body-altering surgeries. This is a problem that spans the population. I actually feel like because of all of the comments and messages that I receive on this issue, that this is an epidemic problem. Women are losing their desire. And there are many reasons for that. And I've talked about this in other podcast episodes. And today I will list some of those reasons as well. But the focus today will be on teaching you how to seduce your wife and how to bring physical intimacy back into your relationship in 3 steps. Now, it sounds simple, it's only 3 steps, but this is an investment of time. So I want you to look at this as a long-term project and don't imagine to get immediate results. Sometimes you do get results much faster than you may expect, and I love it when that happens, but sometimes it can take longer. So I want you to be prepared to put in the work required to do this. And something really interesting about men is that when they work hard for the woman they love, it actually increases their desire for the woman they love. This is like a bonding hormone that gets released when you're doing something, working hard to get what you want. And men are very wired for hard work. So anytime they are in a situation where they have to work hard for something, it's going to release some hormones in them that are beneficial for their health and for their relationships. So keep that in mind. Now, the important thing to really remember here is that you can't always seduce your wife. You can't always reestablish intimacy in your relationship. There has to be still a love between you and your partner and a mutual respect. If there's a lot of resentment, anger, bad feelings, hard feelings, it's going to take a lot longer to reestablish that bond, and it may be impossible. But I will talk about that closer to the end of this podcast episode about what to do if your partner does not respond to your efforts of trying to reestablish physical intimacy in your relationship. So make sure you stay tuned for that. So there are 3 things that you need to do to reestablish intimacy with your wife. And they are in order. First, you need to reestablish the emotional bond that you had with your partner when you were first attracted to each other. And second, you're going to reestablish a non-sexual physical bond. And maybe that's even just establishing a non-sexual physical bond, because maybe that's not something you've ever really done. And it's very important to women. So that's the second thing you need to do. And third, the one you're the most afraid of, is you need to have the talk, the honest and open talk with your wife about how important intimacy is to you. And I'm going to get into all 3 of these things so that you really understand what I'm talking about and you can lose some of the fear that you might have around approaching physical intimacy with your wife. Often the loss of libido for a woman who's getting older, perhaps, or really at any age, has nothing to do with the relationship or how you make love or any of the things that you might be feeling bad about or taking personally. Often, the reasons that women lose their libido is because of hormonal imbalances. It can be because of medications, trauma, It could be because of a poor diet or a lack of exercise. And actually, these are all the same reasons for men that they may experience difficulty with engaging in physical intimacy too. But when women are experiencing these issues, these external factors, the problem is that they don't often put as much importance on intimacy as men. So when they should be addressing these issues, sometimes, often, it seems, they don't take the necessary steps to address their loss of desire. And that is why the number three comes in is so important. And hopefully, by the time you've seduced your wife, she will feel the motivation to fix and deal with and overcome her low desire and whatever's going on in her body that may be caused by external factors that she can have some control over. I want you to understand that men and women arrive at desire along different paths. And that is why this three-step process is so important. Men, they find their emotional bond through physicality, through the physical sensual bond. So a man, when he's craving an emotional connection with his partner, he actually wants to have sex. A woman is different. A woman can't feel desire, especially in a long-term relationship, without having an emotional connection to her partner. So therefore, the things that happen in between making love or engaging in physical intimacy are really important. If you're not connecting with your wife on an emotional level, and if you're not looking at her, talking to her, and we'll get into more of the ways that you can connect on an emotional level, but if you're not having that kind of connection with her, then it's going to be a lot harder for her to get in the mood. She can't just get in the mood from foreplay. She might be able to get in the mood just from foreplay if you spend a really, really, really long time on it. And sometimes you can't get that far because she's like, no, I'm not doing this. And that's who this podcast episode is really for. The people, the men who are in relationships with women who refuse to engage in physical intimacy anymore. You can seduce your wife, and it's actually a kind of exciting process that you can get excitement out of as well. So I'm going to just jump right into it. So number one, reestablishing an emotional bond with your wife is so much simpler than you might imagine. This is what I was talking about before, where you are going to start looking at her when you talk to her. You're going to have conversations, find opportunities to laugh together, have meals or go out to restaurants where you're sitting face to face and share personal things about yourself. Talk about what you've been thinking about or what you've been going through or what your dreams are. Compare notes. You both have all of those things still. You haven't lost the mystery to each other. It might seem sometimes like there's nothing to talk about anymore and that you just know everything about each other, but we all have this entire internal world that we keep hidden from others unless we feel safe enough to share it. So make your wife feel safe to share her internal world by you sharing your internal world. Now, if your wife is not a kind person and she uses your vulnerabilities against you, I don't think anything is going to work with someone like that. That is a toxic person who has some issues and is treating you in a toxic way. And perhaps your relationship has just been a toxic relationship. And if that's the case, you're going to struggle to create an emotional bond. And I will talk more about how to deal with this later in this podcast. But for now, if you have respect in your relationship and love in your relationship, reestablishing an emotional bond is the first and most important thing you need to do. And you want to dedicate like 6 months to this, to bringing back an emotional bond. And you might be able to go to step two and step three before that 6 months is up, but I really want you to set your mind in this frame of I'm going to reestablish a sensual emotional bond with my partner, or just an emotional bond. The sensual aspect of it comes naturally because when we feel emotionally bonded to our partners, it makes us look at them in a way like, oh my God, I love you so much. I just want to please you. I just want to show you how much I love you. So the emotional bond is so important for women. Is there anything else, spending time face to face, expressing appreciation, words of affirmation. These are other things that you can do to nurture an emotional bond with your partner. So become your partner's best friend and make sure you're a safe person for her to talk to. You can't use anything she says against her. You can't mock her or laugh at her if she shares something vulnerable. Everything that she says to you has to be safe. You can't get mad if she admits something that hurts your feelings. If you want to reestablish intimacy in your relationship, you have to be mature and able to handle whatever little things might come up. Because as long as she doesn't feel safe to talk to you or to have that emotional bond with you, she's not going to feel safe enough to give her body to you in a passionate physical embrace. Now, number two, establishing or re-establishing a non-sexual physical bond with your wife is very important as well. If you never touch her unless you want to engage in physical intimacy, then you've actually been touch starving your wife. Women need non-sexual touch. We want to be hugged. We want to have your arm around us. We want you to hold our hand, hug us from behind, put your hand on our knee when we're sitting next to you. Show us that you're attentive to our physicality. Make us feel like you care about more than just fucking us. You actually care about us as people, as humans, as beautiful, desirable women. We want your attention and your affection, not just when you want to get it on. If that's the only time that you pay sensual attention or any kind of attention, physical, non-sexual touch attention to us, is when you want sexual touch, then you're pushing us away. We're going to start to feel like it's not me that he likes. Any woman would do. All he cares about is getting it on. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't show me any affection, love, caring in between when we have sex, but only time he really shows it is during sex. And you'll find even because this is actually more common than you may imagine, and if you're one of these men, I'm talking to you, you'll find that some women, because they only get affection when their man gives them sex, they start to have sex just for affection. And it's not even good sex, but they just want that affection. But as we get older, women are less likely to want to have sex just to get affection. We're less needy for that kind of affection, and we actually want to have an emotional bond. We get sick of the games as we get older. So that's more common for maybe a younger woman, although it can happen to women at any age. And we can also mature a lot younger in that way, where we're not as needy when we're younger. So there's no cut and dry or rules about this. I'm talking very generally. But if your partner used to seem always wanting to get in the sack with you, they may have just been starving for your affection if you never touch them in between making love. So if it's been years and years and years since you've had any kind of physical intimacy and your wife pulls away every time you touch her, then you're going to have to go about this very, very slowly and non-sexually. When you hug her from behind, don't grind your dick into her. When you give her a nice big hug, don't pressure her for intimacy. If she gives you a long kiss, don't immediately try to get sex out of her. This is another long, slow burn process that you need to invest your time in to build your physical bond with your partner again in a safe way. So she doesn't feel like you're just touching her because you want to get it on. And she's not ready for that yet. She's left that behind. Now remember, I'm talking about the aspects of bringing desire back in the relationship that are separate from the external factors that you have no control over. If she's dealing with medications and hormones and trauma and that kind of thing, then some of this, it may not ever work for you to get your physical intimacy needs met again. But to get to the point where you can have this conversation with her, you really want to re-establish your emotional bond and your non-sexual physical bond. And you got to go really slow with some women if they've just learned that every time you touch them, you're going to pressure them for sex. So that is the big goal with number two. Number three, this is when you have the talk. So you have built an emotional bond with your partner and you feel closer than you ever have. You're like best friends, you laugh all the time, you might even flirt a little. And you've built that non-sensual physical bond where you can hug her and she doesn't shrink away. You can put your hand on her knee, you can hold hands and walk around, and she's not feeling any pressure for sex. She's just feeling loved and like you actually care about her as a person. Now, the talk. The talk is a lot easier when you have your emotional and non-sexual physical bond intact. And the talk is where you're going to express to her how important physical intimacy is to you and how you're not willing to go the rest of your life without it. And I want you to be firm here. And I know it may hurt her feelings, and I'm hoping that you can find a way to say this in a way that won't hurt her feelings or will like hurt her feelings the least. And that's something I help my coaching clients with is finding the right words. But you need to set a boundary and say, I'm not willing to go the rest of my life without physical intimacy. So we need to figure this out. And she's hopefully going to realize that, yes, you do need to figure this out. And if she's like, I'm sorry, I just don't know why. I have no desire. It's not you. I love you. I think you're gorgeous. I hate that I'm like this, but I just have no desire and I don't want to fake it or pretend or put on an act. Then she needs to look at what external factor is causing her to feel that way. And like I said, hormonal imbalances, medications, uh, trauma. Maybe she needs therapy. She needs counseling. Poor diet. Maybe she's allergic to something that's messing with her hormones. And also exercise. We all need to move around a little bit to get our desire flowing. And also, ladies, we're going to use it or lose it. Is she masturbating? Does she still want, like, does she still have a desire to have orgasms by herself? If so, that's a really good sign. If not, then she might need to address some of these external factors. And this is something that you would ask her to do if you're having the talk and she says, there's just really, I just don't know why. Say, well, it could be one of these external factors. And why don't you explore and find out and figure it out so that we can save our relationship, the intimacy in our relationship. And so that I don't have to come up with a solution because I am not willing to go the rest of my life without physical intimacy. And when you're having this talk, you can't say it in an angry way or a blaming way or a resentful way. You want to be as compassionate and understanding about why she has not had any physical desire for you. If she loves you, and if you have mutual respect, and if you've built that emotional bond and that non-sensual physical bond again, then she should be very receptive to wanting to figure this out together with you. Now, what happens if this doesn't work? What if she's not receptive? What if she just starts crying and you feel terrible and you just want to rush to comfort her and say, it's okay, baby, it's okay. You don't have to have sex with me. I don't want you to cry about it. Stop yourself. Don't do that. Don't rush to comfort her that way. If you want to comfort her, go ahead. Say, it's okay, baby. We don't have to rush this. I just want to start talking about it. I want you to think about it. And then I want to have another discussion about it because, like I said, I can't live for the rest of my life without intimacy. I hope you understand. Please try to understand. She should try to understand, right? Now, if she's belligerent or mocks you or tries to shame you in any way when you try to have this vulnerable conversation with her, then there's something going on in your relationship that's deeper than physical intimacy and likely has to do with resentments, anger, maybe fights you've had about sex in the past. It could be that your relationship is just really broken down and there is no love between you or no love in your direction from her anyway. If she's just treating you like you're a piece of shit and screw you, I don't care if you have intimacy needs, maybe your relationship has run its course. And that's something you need to think about. Are you willing to go the rest of your life in a relationship with a woman who treats you with contempt and doesn't take your serious emotional and physical needs seriously when you try to talk to her about it with vulnerability? Now, if you have had a lot of resentments over the years, or you've tried to pressure her, argue with her, or in other ways try to convince her to engage in physical intimacy with you, this is your chance to say you're sorry. During the talk, definitely make sure you express apologies for your behavior in the past or even the recent past where you didn't treat her with respect. A woman is not going to want to give her body to you if you've been disrespecting her. So If your wife isn't interested in you and you consistently disrespect her or talk down to her or mock her or treat her like shit, then that's your problem. And same as you shouldn't put up with that from her, I don't think your wife should put up with that from you. And you will not get lucky that way. Just saying. Now, the other thing is she may refuse to address her low libido. If it's being caused by her poor diet, maybe she just doesn't have the discipline or the self-motivation to fix her diet. If it's caused by a health issue, perhaps, or hormonal imbalance, any of these things, it's possible that there isn't a fix. Maybe she needs that medication more than she thinks she needs physical intimacy. Or maybe she just doesn't feel like she's ready to try hormone replacement therapy. And these are all, these are within her control. Only she can make that decision whether she's going to do those things or not. But if she won't do them, then she needs to help you come up with a solution so that you don't have to go your whole life without physical intimacy. And a solution, a simple solution that might work for both of you is naked hugs. Naked hugs without any sexual pressure. And when you actually do the naked hug, you don't put any sexual pressure on her. But you get those bonding hormones, those horny hormones, going through your body. It's healthy for both of you. And you can take care of your climax needs on your own. And honestly, you don't need a partner to climax with. Everyone, and women really know this, we can climax without our partner. So don't put that pressure on your partner to help you climax. That's something that would come as your physical relationship is progressing and starting to desire is starting to come back. And if your wife is making an effort, and I would do a whole other podcast episode on what you're going to do in the bedroom once you've restored that interest from your wife in physical intimacy. But this episode is simply about getting her to that point and seducing your wife to the point where she's open-minded and is beginning to engage in physical intimacy with you. So if it does work and your wife is showing an interest in physical intimacy with you again, now you want to go back to your three-step process and continue to maintain that emotional bond, continue to non-sensually touch your wife in between sex or physical intimacy encounters. And three, you don't want to have the talk over and over again. You don't want to constantly talk about your intimacy needs. If she's starting to come back to you, don't rush her, don't push her, don't pressure her. Just let her come at her own pace. The talk now that you're going to have in step three is really just more flirtation. Now that she's come back to you somewhat physically, now you get to flirt again, and it's not going to be misconstrued as pressure because you have established in your relationship with her this emotional and non-sexual physical bond so that she doesn't feel like it's all about the sex and all you want is sex and it could be anyone. It's not about her. You don't love her. That is a feeling that a lot of women can get after a while when the only time a man ever touches us is for sex. It can feel like, I guess I'm not worthy of affection or love unless I'm putting out. So we can get resentful about that. So don't forget that. So I'm going to go over a few things that I don't want you to do while you're in this process of seducing your wife and trying to bring physical intimacy back into your relationship. So number one, no more arguing, shaming, pressuring, guilting, pouting, or anything else that makes your wife feel bad about saying no. Okay? Number one, no more of that. That will push her away. That will push the possibility of physical intimacy further and further away. And you'll have to work way harder to get it back. So stop that right now if you are doing it and never, ever do it again. Two, don't take rejection personally. If she's starting to come back into your arms physically, sensually, then you don't take it personally if once in a while she's like, honey, not tonight. She is allowed to want to do it sometimes and not want to do it sometimes. As long as she is not never doing it, as long as she is engaging in physical intimacy with you more and more at her own pace, don't take rejection personally when it happens. She's re-exploring her body. She's re-exploring her sensuality. She's addressing whatever issues were experiencing within her, she was experiencing within herself that had to do with her low desire. So give her space and time to work through that on her own without pressure. And don't give up on intimacy. Don't give up on having physical intimacy in your life. You deserve to have it, and you should be able to try and work this out with your wife. And if not, then you need to consider what are your options. So your options are stay in the relationship and never have physical intimacy again. Ask your partner, your wife, if you can get your physical intimacy needs met outside the relationship with an affair or an intimacy surrogate, or you can end the relationship. Now, some people might see a fourth option. They might say, well, I'm going to have an affair behind my wife's back without having a conversation or getting permission. And I understand why people do that, and I'm not judging, but I believe that it chips away at the strength of the relationship when you do that. So if it's at all possible for you to work this out somehow with your wife, that is the best path forward. So I know that once you've made this decision that you're not going to give up on intimacy, there's a sense of urgency that comes back where you are like, I want this now. And it can be difficult to put in the time and effort that is needed to get your wife to the point where she's ready and wants to engage in intimacy. But I want to remind you how long you've gone without it already. And I want you to be willing to go a little longer, however long it takes. If you really love your wife and you don't want to break up and you don't want to seek intimacy outside the relationship, then you need to put in the time and the effort and be willing to do that without rushing or pressuring your wife. Now, some of my clients I've spoken to, they're not attracted to their wives anymore. And this is part of the problem and part of the reason why physical intimacy isn't happening in their relationship and may never come back to their relationship. And that's a whole other podcast episode. But for the purposes of this episode, this is for those of you who still love your wife, still are attracted to your wife, and really, really want your wife's touch back in your life. And finally, I just want to encourage you that if you are having increasingly more physical intimacy with your partner, you want to make sure that you are a very good lover and that you can do a lot of amazing things that don't include putting your penis in her vagina. I want you to learn how to engage in physical, sensual intimacy, and the way to learn different techniques and different things that you can do is not by watching porn. The way to learn is by searching on the internet for how to be a good lover, how to give a G-spot orgasm, for instance, or how do most women like oral pleasure. There are actually a lot of resources online for you to find this kind of information, and porn is not the best place to get that. Most women do not like porn sex. Most women don't want to choke on a dick and they don't want to be called mummy and all these other things. They don't want to be pounded really hard for hours. This is not what women want. So look online and find techniques for actually giving amazing pleasure to your partner before you get to the penetration part. And if you're someone who can't engage in penetrative sex, or your wife can't engage in penetrative sex, then this becomes really important. So learn those techniques and get really good at what you do when you do. And that's all I have for you today for this episode of Intimacy After Ostomy podcast. I hope that you have enjoyed this information. And if you'd like to learn more or find out how I can help you take these steps, please reach out to me through my website, intimateostomate.com. Now, I want you to understand that men and women, let's start over then again.